We are back for a late night West Coast WooWoo Wednesday edition for most, especially if you're joining from Australia, New Zealand, Asia. It's already Thursday and you're one day away from the weekend, but we're back with Hans and Julia, and Julia's already stealing some of my viewers. Don't wait though. Just wait until we reveal what awards you've won and for what. My goodness. Or accolades, I should say.
Accolades.
Excellent. Thanks for having us back, Bernie. This is awesome.
Yeah, it's great to be here.
Oh, always a pleasure, and always great topics and deep, in-depth metaphysical, or just the flip, the folds, the esoteric knowledge and discussions that we have. And tonight being the power of symbols and symbology, going back into both ancient language to the modern application today, all the way up to, I believe, Hans, that's kind of what you do also for careers. Graphic design with symbols and artwork and stuff, right?
I do graphic design, multimedia, but I also do a lot of logo design and iconography. And so symbols, wow. What is a symbol? Well, a symbol is it's a concept that's portrayed through an object, a status, an icon, an emoticon, a logo. There's religious symbology. There's even, word symbology, wordsmithing, and word spells. And so, wow. Okay, let's dive into that. So,
right, like spell casting, spelling, words, etymology, and we went into it before going live a bit, and like I originally spelt your name wrong just in my mind. I was like, it can't be Dietrich, no. And then you're like, no, it's Diet
Rich.
Diet Rich,
right?
That's hilarious.
Diet Rich, and then it's like your cooking book just has to be Make It Rich, cooking with Hans. Hans cooking.
I actually do have a cookbook that I'm in the process of making, so that's kind of funny. But good idea.
Yeah, somebody on my channel wants your recipe for your cleanse.
Okay, yeah, I'll
gotta post that.
I'll have to share that because, it's coming up on the new moon. So everybody who wants to
be a new
cleanse,
moon. Hans in by Hans books will share his cooking secret stream. And if you are interested or wanting to support Hans' work, the links to his books are in the description. And I guess, we should just, if you want to hold them up quick and give them a little flash so people can see what they will be buying.
Oh, my
God. Yeah. What happened before? Oh my goodness. Epic fail. Before we were live, you had all four up.
I don't have it on me.
I thought you had them with you. You had them.
I have Walter
He's
Bosley.
In the Japanese garden.
Oh, those were Walter's books. My God.
Walter Bosley and Joseph Farrell's books. I was gonna, promo
okay,
those.
My mistake. I thought
no worries. I'm like, where is my book? And actually,
right, you can hold up everybody else's books, and I can also do that. And a whole
shout out to Joseph Farrell for two of his most amazing books.
There we go. There's the books I saw.
Yeah. And then I have a lot of Walter Bosley's books as well. This guy does quite.
There we go. There they are. All there we see. There, that was the screenshot I was looking for, and so that's for Walter Bosley's books.
I'm like,
Walter Bosley. We're going to be all doing an episode with Walter coming up. It'll be my third with him, and last stream we did last week, he was in the live chat, and we brought it up, and that will be one epic show because he does do a lot of investigation into lost, ancient, highly advanced civilizations, as well as the UFO phenomenon. And his experience as a special agent investigator for the Air Force and his father's history with it. And there's so much disclosure coming out right now. Sorry to get off topic, but I just got to do a quick plug for everything with the UAP and UFO stuff. the Ashton Forbes MH370, which also those videos, I remember watching them in 2014 when it came out. It was like on before its news website, and I was like, man, that shit's got to be fake aliens. Like, but then it's like now from a new perspective, it's like the Pentagon has acknowledged those Tic Tacs are real, and it was like those were the Tic Tacs, and then like the movement of them, the thermals and everything. It's just like if you listen to Dr. Bob Greenier of the Martin Fleischmann Memorial Project break down the videos and just the intricate physics of it, which I instantly recognized, and I'm like, this is too complex to be like just some random fakery. Like it's showing the actual like inner workings of this cold fusion aspects of the entropy of the technology that isn't really like it's classified and hasn't really been acknowledged or shown before. And it's like it's fully up there and in it, and the only reason you're seeing it is because it's from these high grade military spy satellites and this QR or Reaper drone footage of the infrared of it as well. That it's absolutely nuts. And it's like the quality of it, it's like for that sort of footage to come out 4 days after the MH370 went missing, and like it's just too complex and too legitimate to be a hoax from that time period now that I'm reflecting back on it. Yeah, so anyways, he did an interview with Salvador Payas, and alien scientist Jeremy Reese has an interview coming up with Salvador Payas on the 12th here in 3 days that I'm also going to be co-streaming on my channel. Probably get to ask him some questions at the end. And he is the former Navy engineer, now Space Force employee that has the patents for the essentially Tic Tac technology for the Navy, I believe is how it officially goes. Yeah, so it's quite fascinating, interesting, and I look forward to that.
The drip of disclosure has become a little bit faster.
The flow, right? It's just, and yeah, so, and that's most likely Tic Tacs are drones, they're AI programmed, and they are most likely terrestrial, human, or something.
This is interesting you say this. When I was in Egypt in 2018, I had an experience. We were all on the Nile cruise. We were sitting on the rooftop, sharing cigarettes and having drinks, and all of a sudden we hear aircraft coming over the Nile area. So we're all on a Nile cruise going from Luxor to Aswan, and whizzing by us are these two F-15s, and they're chasing an orb.
Really?
Yeah,
actually witnessed that.
Yeah, and then
because I've seen footage of that. It's like
there were like 10 of us that witnessed this. A friend of mine has she has photos of it. Behind it is another orb just bobbing along, going, "Hello, here we are." Now, what's funny with this is this was in. When was I in Egypt in 2018? It was like March or April. And at the same time here in Oregon, there was something that flashed on the radar. And we have at the Portland International Airport is one of, anyway, there's Air Force technology there. And so they scrambled their jets and chased this orb all the way up past Olympia. And it literally was on the same day. And so you've got to ask yourself, okay, is this test technology? So we're using these high fast drones to test the accuracy of our human pilots is how I look at that in a sense. But that's my experience.
That makes perfect sense. And that sounds like what also happened at the Nimitz encounters.
Interesting. Okay, because this would be a readiness drill. I mean, quite literally. It's like how do we react to something that we aren't told about?
It's while also unifying your soldiers, creating like this higher force sort of like feeling and experience, like
Sure.
essentially a fake alien invasion being portrayed upon the military by a secret dark sect.
Yeah.
Why not test readiness? Exactly, correct. So yeah. Anyway, that's my 3 cents on that. But it's interesting that you bring that up, because there's a lot going on, and weirdly, it is all symbolic, right? What is a space force? It's something that protects us from the land, from the sea, from the air, and from space. And so here we have, a 4-level symbology of protection. It's very subtle, but there is subtle symbology, right? And so this is obviously our topic tonight. We look at object symbology, and we were chatting earlier before we went live, and object symbology comes back around to something like the Statue of Liberty, right? And so most people look at this worldwide as, oh, it's a symbol of freedom, but in reality, liberty is a nautical term. It's a nautical law term. And so when you pull into port, or you berth into port, and you give up your certificate of manifest, or what you're carrying on your ship, your berth certificate, Jordan Maxwell, giving a shout out there to him bringing that forth. Your crew will ask the captain, do we have liberty to go ashore? Which means a short time shore leave. And so the Statue of Liberty is truly about that. It's, Captain, do I have the ability to come ashore, right? Okay.
Giving up your liberties to enter someone else's land.
Which is
you're
weird,
no
because
longer your own sovereign.
You see it from the bottom, and it's the light bearer. And so strangely, this is also how Lucifer is portrayed. In Italy, there's a couple of statues of the Lucifer with the booklet and the torch and the corona, right? The crown, the sun crown, the sundial. And so it's fascinating that we're always looking up at the statue, but if you go above it and look down, he, she, it
is the Statue of Liberty, this Lilith Luciferian,
it's male, female, or androgyne, which is interesting. And so, but it's still shackled to the pedestal that's on top of that star fort that is Ellis Island. And you've got to just go, okay, if this is freedom, why is the Statue of Freedom shackled to the pedestal it's standing on, right? Ball and chain right there. And so that's interesting that we have this object of symbology. There's status symbol as well, right? Oh, I got my new Rolex.
In plain sight, right? That it's everything is backwards. They're spell casting down on society. Everything is backwards. World backwards spell casts, and
what is the English language?
They're cursing. They're cursing the world with their spells, essentially.
It's a spellcast language.
Yeah, exactly. Spellcast of hypnosis language to drone us and turn us into.
Do I have to spell this out for you? I mean, there's strangely hostility in words, and we were also talking about this, and it's like, how do we recognize this hostility in words and change it? Oh, dude, you killed it last night on that podcast. That's a negative connotation, but we're so used to saying it, or that was the bomb, or this,
right? You're casting a spell, you're incarnating these intentions and this curse, and that when you speak curse words, curse phrases, you are in fact putting out this energetic curse upon whatever energy you're putting it towards, whether it be yourself, others, your family, your friends, like the world, whatever it is. But when you're like, burn it all down, and then something explodes or breaks or crashes right around you,
so that's interesting you say that, because putting a curse is like putting a hex. And the hex symbology comes straight out of the ancient Saturnian symbology. And so Saturn was, Kronos to the Greeks. He was Baal to the Sumerians. This is where Babylon comes from. This is where L comes from. Baal. I mean, there's a lot of Saturnian symbology in that, and it's wow, quite a fascinating. You're going to put a hex on somebody, and so if you look at other Saturnian symbology, you have the hexagram, which is the double triangle upside down and right side up triangle, which is the Star of David. This is a hexagram. You have the hexagon, which is the shape it makes inside of it. The hexagon is also a two-dimensional shape of a four-dimensional or three-dimensional object, or even a four-dimensional object for that matter, if there's a singularity in the middle. But that's the cube. And so the cube also becomes the hexagon. And so you look at Saturn and you have the hexagonal vortex of a storm that's happening at the North and the South Pole. And at the North Pole, it's visible because you have both one rotation and rotation.
And that they're both on Jupiter and Saturn, and most likely Uranus.
Yeah.
And then it's like, so what's actually at ours? Is there actually this vortex? Is it inner Earth potentially? Like what? It's very strange. And if you spin a sphere with water in it and just a little bit of air, when you spin it fast enough, the air goes to the center and it hollows out. Yeah, and it creates a toroid. And it's like, by that physics, we could be a toroidal world potentially. So then, if we are a toroid Earth, if we're toroid Earth, is garbage can Earth the closest thing and the missing butt plug taken out of the donuts? That is my question. Like, what?
Oh, there's a force field.
The geometry, I don't know, but it fascinates me. And mathematically, you can't really prove anyone wrong. It's kind of crazy.
It seems to be like they're filtering souls here, right? Like it's determining where you go to next, and it's designed that way. So, and with the whole cloning thing too, it's like how many of these people are clones? You know, like is that why there's a firmament?
Yeah. All right, and I often think, so my talk with Joseph Farrell, I want to go back deeper into him next time on this plasma and consciousness, and then this, what he's found, this, wrote in his latest book of this potentially conscious plasma freaking giant galactic entity thing that's, out in space or something that takes up, 2/3 of the galaxy or something just crazy. It's like you can envision it as potentially this massive goo of God or something, who knows, but just could that be? And then it's so plasma being a fourth state of matter and potentially conscious, is that what outer space could be? Or could it be this conscious timeless dimension compared to this third dimension reality that we are in?
So that's interesting. You bring up plasma as a consciousness, and so when you actually study plasma, when it goes through its phases, it actually has consciousness. It reacts to its environment. I don't know if you've ever used a Tesla coil or any of these things, but right there, exactly. Bingo. So
have you ever seen the lightning or the lights, where it looks
you just displayed a consciousness. It knew exactly where
actually, now that you bring that up,
where your field was. So yeah,
I think I have a picture right here.
Yeah, right. The Carillion effect as well. Correct. With that aura too, and then I bring up the Alchemist minions. That's the simplest
fact of the plasma, but it's there's so much plasma effect that could go on with that. Anyway,
exactly, and no, you're bang on, and that this the monoatomics, the Ormus, that is essentially another form plasma state when you have it activated. When it's in water, when you give it charge, a little bit of electricity in it, then it becomes alive, and it always self-organizes. And it's self-organization, how it builds, how it forms. It's like it's conscious just to the degree of its entropy and self-organizing. It's just in structure and formation. It's just it's nuts to see and witness. And I'll be publishing a lot more of my alchemy research and experiments coming up. But let's go back to the symbols and the symbol side of alchemy.
So we went through an object as a symbol. So there's status symbols, right? A status symbol could be anything from, you know, a new watch to your fancy car, a camel, a horse, farm, whatnot. Status symbols, you know, there's a lot of connection there. In some elements, I was actually kind of rethinking a little bit more about the Statue of Liberty, and we were talking that it also symbolizes Columbia. And then we start to think about, oh, we have the District of Columbia. We have the Columbia River, the Columbia Gorge out where I live. We have British Columbia. We have the nation of Columbia. I mean, it goes on and on and on. There's so much revolving.
Yes, sir. Where I'm at, next to British Columbia, and then where my family land is, I have to go through Columbia Lake and the beginning of the Columbia River. And
so
that's really where my
who is Columbia, and why is this is a representation of the Statue of Liberty? So I just wanted to bring
exactly.
Yeah.
And Columbia, DC being the center of it all.
Correct.
Don't they say the Statue of Liberty is like an ode to Lucifer?
Well, it is. No, I mean, there's a statue in Italy. I was saying this when you were away. That is literally the same. And it's got the corona, the sun crown. It's holding the scriptures and the torch. And this is Lucifer. You know, Lucifer is also Venus. Venus is also Columbia, Isis, Ishtar, so on and so forth.
Inanna.
And so Inanna. And so the statue takes on both a male, female, and androgyny form. Yeah. So anyway, moving along. So we got status
that's kind of key too, and that there seems to be this weird infatuation with that, like going into this third sexuality, and like in history as well, when the societies were coming to these peaks and what seemed like technological peaks, and then they talk about like the demigods and the gods, and then that there's the transhumanism, and that they like go transsexual into transhumanism almost. It's very, very strange. And I don't know, I guess that might be a controversial topic, so or comments, so I don't know. But
well, that's the thing. There's like on YouTube, like a lot of the people that have surgeries to transform, or whatever the correct term is, to switch over, they come out and they make, like, since 2018, they've been making videos of their stories saying how they like they regret it, and they're pouring their hearts out, and they're going over their story, and they're like, don't do it, and it's removed, and their channels are banned. So that shows like a whole nother agenda of like why to be supporting and pushing that. And then the rise, you look at the atrazine and things, and what that did to frogs, and how it turned frogs and it being in a lot of crops, and you look at the things being ingested of these certain chemicals that have that effect.
Yes, and like the gene editing with the crops and the
right. So these kids are so it being ingested, and they're not even aware, because they're, you know, and they're just experiencing these things, but it's by design. And then they come out, they do it, they go forward with it, and it's almost like they have a complete change of heart. They try to tell the world, because some of them are very gung-ho about promoting it, and then they're like, oh wow, no, this is not good, and then they say that, and then they're immediately
they hit puberty, or like that they like get back on with real life, and like the body tries to adjust, and and I can testify my own life experience. One of my childhood high school friends, Dustin's brother Frodo, decided to turn into, I forget what her actual name was, but Frodessa, but she regretted it and sadly, tragically committed suicide within like 6 months of having the operation. And yeah,
I think this gets into a whole nother world of like possession, like things that are able to enter you. I was looking into, this is in June, I was looking into becoming an exorcist. I really was.
What?
But then I
We're
was.
talking
But then
about
no, but well, I don't even
exorcisms
okay, wait.
right
I'm gonna
at
try to explain
1:11
this.
a.m. I have to say,
I hope
sorry.
okay.
1:11 a.m.
I hope I'm able to say this right now. Explain this. The reasons why I didn't do it. Well, because you have to be, because I don't have certain certifications, the demons know that. They know, like, if you're not qualified, and they will do different tactics and then start messing with you because they respect certain rules. Like, I don't know how else to explain this, but there's certain guys that weren't at levels, or they didn't have
So
certain accredited, like they
putting
weren't.
the demon back in, right? Not necessarily taking it out. And at 12:12 your time right now, we're gonna shove all demons back down and not let them out into our realm.
Oh, I was like, dude, I can't be doing like that. And if they know I'm not fully accredited, or like that they don't acknowledge that, like certify certain certifications, like they're gonna be like, it's a free for all. No way, man. No.
So interesting. You're saying 12:12. I think we started this around 11:11, right? So
Right? Look at that.
numerology is symbology is also very important as well. And there's spell casting through numbers. 9:11. That's a spell casting number. 9 is before the master, and 11 is the ultimate master. So
it's
what
like
is
the
10?
portals and alignments of the celestial clock of the heavens, is of these energy times.
33. Well, there's 33 vertebrae in your spine, but this is also the master mason becomes the 33rd. It's interesting. Speaking of 33s, and I like to quote movies a lot, so you get into something like Ashoka. So Ashoka comes from a Japanese word, and it's interesting. It's like Aso is what we know it as, but in reality it's Aso Deo Ka, right? So it's Asokada. And so you have Ahsoka right there in the word, and it means, so is that so, right? It's a question. But who is her character? She's the reckoning. And so in a sense, her name is very much her in the show. But then all of a sudden at the end of the show, spoilers alert, we meet up with Thrawn and his battalion of stormtroopers, and they're all these ghost stormtroopers, and the battalion number is 332. Well, 332 makes 8 in Gematria, but 332 is also the number of the Skull and Bones Society. And so here you have these ghost stormtroopers and direct relation to the Skull and Bones Society.
Very fascinating you
through
say
a number,
that.
just through a number.
I have to,
like, are you kidding me?
I have to put forward, I now speculate and wonder if their number is 32 because they have infiltrated and they take all 32 member Freemasons and prep them before sending them off to become 33rds. And it's like you have to pass through them skull and bones before you're allowed to really enter into anything.
So there's layers of the symbology, and as we all know, they have to tell us what they're doing in order for us to go along with it, even if we subconsciously don't even realize what's happening. Oh, well, we showed this to you, what's happening. And so that's also very symbolic. And that gets strangely into logos and iconography symbology.
Well, what fascinates me about the logos is like you can, what they say that you like certain like universal law to get around certain karmas or whatever, you have to notify them, you have to tell them. But
Correct.
The fact that you could put that in a sigil, and that being a way to notify them, because their subconscious mind is getting it, it is receiving it. That, like, what? That, like, totally, what I want to say about that is Dr. Joe Dispenza, he talks about like a healthy human brain can process like 400 billion bits of information per second. And
Right.
we're only conscious of about 2,000 of those 400 billion bits of information. So it's processed by your unconscious mind.
What are
And the
dreams?
main reason why your subconscious mind processes most of the information about your environment is that your conscious mind isn't powerful enough to process the information or fact. So they talk about this at the Harvard Business School, and they say that 95% of our purchase decision making takes place in the subconscious mind, because the subconscious utilizes symbolism and imagery to like express itself. So the subconscious mind, and dealing with that, because I do hypnosis regression, and that's what it accesses. It gets you in the theta brainwaves, and it accesses your subconscious mind. And it's like, I say it's like 30,000 times more powerful, but I don't know. I can't measure that. But
I believe the subconscious is your higher self, and the conscious.
Right. So what is that? Yeah, what we're calling the subconscious. Right? What field is that? Like, is that the God source, like that you're connecting to? That, but it records everything.
Yourself
and
to your higher self, and then to God, right? So you have to make peace with yourself before you can ever try to attain or connect with God, because you're not even connected to your own self. For those that exist in denial and the cognitive dissonance or the constant sin.
So the way that we absorb it, like, we're not even, there's like an awareness that we're not even realizing how we absorb. Like, I always say, like, protect your ears and your eyes. Like, you don't even know. Like, you look at, you buy something, it's a logo.
See lies, right? Yeah. That's wow. That's sorry. Fascinating that you're chatting about this, because in a sense, through emoticons on our phones, we're being retrained to not have our own emotions, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'll just use
and
this.
React, right? To react with the emoticons and react to all of those closest to you in your Facebook family, right? Right?
That's right. But these are like a shortcut to having an actual, conversation, communication with somebody. And it's fascinating. It's fascinating that we're all entrained to it now. Just like signs and symbols that we see on the street. The yield sign, the stop sign. Well, the stop sign has 8 sides, right? 8 is an infinite number. Okay, so stop always is an infinity of stop.
Right, it is.
Where else do we see 8? Well, we have 8 fingers, right? Thumbs aren't fingers.
8 is where time loops upon.
8 is infinite, right? Okay, and so this is a fascinating number that just continues itself. 9 is even more fascinating, because 9
exactly, because 9 drains back from the macro to the micro. It connects to the 10, which is exponential, which is also the 0, which is the binary, the 1 and 0. And when you truly understand numbers and dimensions,
441 or 144,
there you go.
144 souls.
It is a matrix, and it's the code of matrix of creation, universe, and God, essentially. And that's why so many call numbers and like numerology the God code, because it is, and gematria, and also though
it folds on itself. So
geometry.
2 9s is 18. 8 plus 1 is 9. 3 9s is 27.
I wonder what's more powerful, words or numbers? 9. What do you think's more powerful, words or numbers?
Numbers can also be words. So they would be
number
more
times you use words, especially in spell casting, I would imagine is the most.
Numbers are very symbolic, because we can represent numbers with fingers, or
Why is it knock 3 times or
Right.
something 5 times? Or,
Every time you want to access the secret keys, you have to turn them 7 times, right? There's 7 different layers of the keys.
But like words would be like a vibrational spell. I wonder.
Correct.
Just sounds alone and
Everybody,
tones alone.
Power of the octave.
Horrible
right?
movie, but rewatch it. Tomb
Infinite.
Raider 2, The Cradle of Life, amazing movie. It's all about sound technology. So rewatch this movie.
What's it called? The Cradle of Life?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's the second Tomb Raider movie. Horrible movie, but
I never saw Tomb Raider.
a lot of people didn't. And here we're talking about symbology.
I did, but I'm going to have to rewatch it with
Yeah.
that in mind because
Symbology
you're
through
absolutely
sound.
right.
Correct.
So much soft disclosure in movies.
Oh, bingo. Yes.
And the
Fully.
symbology of them.
Speaking of symbols, there on your Bert and Ernie cast.
Right? The cartoon homunculus there.
You have the planetary symbols. That's awesome. Yeah. So.
And I'll pull up the full chart for all.
These
and I
are
will
all
give
sigils, and sigils are amazing symbols. Solomon was a amazing master of sigils. And not only did he create sigils through physical symbols, but he also did it through alchemical symbols. And so
what? I need to know about this.
Oh yes. Damn, I could grab it off my bookshelf.
I told you how I would see
I'll share this with you off the cast, but it's the grimoire of Heaven and Earth or something like this.
When was that written?
It's a collection of Solomon sigils. What? And it deals with all of the different demons or golems that he would bring forth. And it's interesting that he not only created these sigils as an ink form,
being some of
but
them,
he created
right?
them as
And
overlaps as a metallic form as well.
How did he know? I wonder how he knew, how to do
this in metallic form is a higher complexity circuit. These are high technology.
That's how he enslaved them, was circuitry.
Bingo. Yes, correct.
Okay, I just wonder. It was like a common thing. I feel like it was a common thing, like a lot of people knew back then.
Essentially, look at this. If these are circuits, and we're because one of them, Jeremiah was saying, looks like an LED circuit. So it's is an LED an angel? Is it because apparently they don't take any electricity and last forever? It's eternal light. So is that an angel essentially? I am very fascinated by this now. Look at Osiris there. Osiris looks like a definite sort of circuit.
So that would be similar to a genie. If you were describing and enslaving a certain entity through circuit,
Angels,
knowing
demons.
of a simulation type construct. And you're like, hey, you're in this level. You can't leave this area. You electrical being, you.
I'm a little weirded. I can't find my books. There's 3 books that are missing off my shelf. What's going on? Anyway. So yeah, the Grimoires of Heaven and Hell is one of them. Amazing. It's all about Solomon's keys and Saturnian symbolism, and he would invoke demons and higher spirits and then trap them or entrap them. And so this was all symbolic.
So it's reverse going on these days where they get you to invoke them.
Bingo, correct.
And they entrap you. And Solomon's like, whoa, whoa, whoa.
That's not what I meant. Yeah, no. Wow, that's interesting that you say that, because
I wouldn't be interested in reading any grimoire after the 15th century. I have no interest. It's what is there a grimoire? Was it before the 15th century? Okay, I'll read it. I want to see it. Anything after the 15th century, no. I'm a grimoire snob.
Is that why it was the Dark Ages back then? When they enslaved
Sorry, what?
They enslaved why it was called the Dark Ages, that enslaved by grimoire potentially, and
wow,
they
Part of it could have been
Reset took over.
technological or spiritual technological. We also had a mini ice age, so there is also an environmental aspect that affected the Dark Ages that we're now coming to grips with modern science and realizing, oh wow, we actually did dip back into a mini.
Sorry, I also wanted to point out those
if
Dark Ages are when they put the English language upon us.
Yes, correct.
And switch
to
Latin.
When we all put spells upon ourselves.
This is the myth of Shakespeare, right? The spear shaker. So who was Shakespeare? Was it one person or was it multiple people? And so if it was one person, it possibly was Sir Francis Bacon. And Bacon was a illegitimate child of Queen Elizabeth I, and I don't remember who the father was. He was a 33rd degree master mason, and he established the Shakespearean temple, in a sense, where it was multiple people that would write these amazing plays that would tell out the story of the times. But then also during this time, Queen E the First had her master magus, and he was known as John Dee. And John Dee went by the call sign of 007 or Two Ball Cane.
But what I didn't understand is that I always thought John Dee had these visions and stuff. He wasn't. Edward Teller was the one that saw, because when I started having visions, I looked to try to understand why am I seeing these things? Why am I seeing these ancient symbols? Why some of these were alchemical symbols, some of these are formulas. I was trying to make sense of it, and I wanted a mentor, and you can't really, it's hard to find. It's hard to find that. So when coming across that information, I was interested in, and then I discover John Dee's not the one to see it. No. He kind of oversees it, but that Edward Teller would indeed, and that he was the one to see. And
so this is the Shakespearean society, right? It wasn't one person. It wasn't one individual. And it's weird that you go on a CNN or BBC or any of these news stations tonight, and they just put this placard of William Shakespeare in space, and it's just like, but William Shakespeare wasn't a real person. So it's like, who is the
but from what I understand, they write a lot of books. They write a lot of books under a name that nobody, it's been a thing for a long time, where they'll use a name, and it's a group of people that are facilitating and utilizing a story. And then from what I understand, it's highly coded. It's telling you to do certain things, but you have to know how to decode it. But so you'll always be able to teach this certain thing where people can always go and get a copy of that book, but there's things within it, and you got to have the cipher. So there's these books, and you look into these publishing places too, and you're like, wait a second, whoa.
This is weird that you say this, because this gets into, to spy technology. So in the 60s, 70s, I just had this conversation with my dad earlier on the phone, because he's always interested in these gut-wrenching adventure stories. There was a book that came out called, I think it was called 7 Days with the Condor, and it was about a CIA analyst who discovered a code in a newsprint, because before massive computers, this is where they would use symbology through newsprint, through spells, through word spells.
Yeah.
Oh, it's a story about sports, but if you really are reading between the lines, it really isn't. And so he discovers something that has a long game. All right, in chess, it would be a long game. So it's not something that's going to happen immediately, but it's going to tell out into something in the future. And he leaves one day for lunch. He exits through the back door of the building that he works in Chicago, and his entire staff, all CIA analysts, are all executed by a CIA hit team. And it's fascinating, because what he discovers, and there's a movie with Robert Redford and Max von Sydow, and I don't remember the woman that he takes hostage for 3 days or 7 days, whatever the story is. But what he discovers in his looking through the sports pages and the newsprint is that the war of the future will be about resources, and it'll be mostly about water. right? And so this is fascinating that the most recent Mission Impossible movie, I mean, I look at symbology in movies as well, talks about this as well. The future war will not be this massive destructive thing. It will be, mano a mano, fighting over the most basic resources and most preciously water. And you just got to stop and go, well, what is being predicted here? What is being programmed here? Because predictive programming is also a form of symbology. Right?
That's what Hollywood.
Did you see that meme I posted about like over the past year, 11 billion gallons of water has been wasted and released from the Hodges Reservoir. The city of San Diego said it is under a state order to keep the water level low in the lake. Like what? That's 11 billion gallons of water, and the state's requiring it.
It's criminal. It's like, sorry, we're limiting all the farmers' water because we don't have enough water because we keep emptying the reservoirs.
And it's everywhere. It's everywhere. And then we're gonna take. But dude, it's 2023. How do we not have it figured out to have water in a structured format, like that living water structure, like where we eliminate the salt in it and it's filtered and it's like abundant everywhere. How?
And that you can turn that into hydrogen and oxygen and also Brown's gas and straight fuel. And that you recreate, when you recombine them, you're actually just putting water out. Back as your exhaust, not CO2. So the whole global warming scam can get shoved back up their arses as well. And it's ridiculous. Like, yes, polluting and like killing and habitat destruction, yes, that's extremely bad for the environment and man-made. But as for this climate change BS and taxation of CO2 ridiculousness, that is,
what I was thinking? I was thinking about, like, how you get to a certain level and you like there's big money, like imagine billionaires or millionaires gambling over like betting big on soccer, football, or hockey. And then you have like, imagine like a bunch of billionaires getting together and they're playing a game of weather wars where they're like, oh yeah, I bet you 700 million that this is going to take out 4,000 people, where it's like you're playing these like harp weather wars where it's like vying against just, I don't know. I was thinking about that earlier tonight of like it being like betting on that of how many victims there are. I don't know, like it being like a literal game. These are my thoughts, ladies and gentlemen. These are my thoughts.
I quite love them. And at 1 hour in, I think it's time for Julia to tell her story of how she
how I became LA Kings girl. Oh my god, this is the premiere. This is the world premiere. Bernie didn't know this about me. Bernie doesn't know.
This is you becoming a symbol, right? Okay.
Oh god. Yes. Okay, so
boom. The symbology of Julia. This gal right here.
I was really big into, like, I discovered Counter-Strike and I like loved it. I was like, this is amazing. And then I got into playing all these first-person shooter games and I became obsessed. Then I was in like the first edition of Xbox Live Gamer magazine and I got like hottest gamer in the world. And I actually was playing Call of Duty and I was on a clan and there was a bunch of us and one of them there was a couple pro athletes in there and like I would take it very seriously. And I think what I was doing was I was remote viewing because they're like, Julia always knows where the enemies are like the other team's gonna be, so like we should listen to her. And these are all very like tough alpha males, like I don't, like I am the team captain of my team and they would listen to me, like, because they saw it would check out. So it turned out like one of the people on my team was Dustin Brown. He's a professional hockey player. And
Not
him
just
and
professional hockey player, captain of the LA Kings, and one heck of a great Canadian hockey player, eh?
Yeah, he's awesome. Well, he grew up in Ithaca, New York, but he went up to
Oh no, he's
Canada.
American, right? My
Yeah,
bad. How do I?
Drew Doughty. Okay, but Drew Doughty
He
was
became
actually
a Canuck.
Drew was on, like, he would appear online. We would appear like, this is kind of insulting and a lot to say, but Drew
Right.
Doughty would come online and we would like
Captain
appear.
America. How did I forget that?
We would appear offline because he was so bad at gaming. Like we were like, oh, Drew's on, like, appear offline. But so we would play in clan matches and stuff, and we would take it really seriously, and that's how. So I became close with his brother-in-law, and so Dustin Brown invited me to. He was throwing a pitch at Dodger Stadium, and asked me to come, and me, his wife, and his brother-in-law, we all went. And then we're there, and they were like, you should be like an ice girl. I'm like, what? I am a nice girl. They're like, no, you should like come out to be like an ice girl. And I was like, I've never skated in my life. I grew up in Southern California. So I went, and anyway, so the Kings, I tried out, and the Kings organization ended up becoming like a second family to me. And it ended up being like the most amazing experience. But Bernie found out about it tonight because he didn't know I was a gamer, because he was talking about how he was like addicted to this game.
I am addicted to Command and Conquer.
I was telling him,
I've got it on my phone at all times.
I was telling him, like, I was to dinner with Dustin and Poole, and I'm sitting there, and they wouldn't tell me about some game that like you lose. They're like, no, don't tell her the name of it. I was like, what? Why won't they tell me the name of a game? And they start going into like, we see how you are with gaming and like with Call of Duty. So like, you can't know about this because it's way more addicting. And I was like, oh my God, like I have to find out what game this is. And they're like, no, you won't care about your life at all. Like you won't want to shower. Like he's talking about how he's like up in Canada, like some hockey camp, and like he didn't care about anything, like nothing. And I was
WoW addict.
Yeah. So it took me forever, like, because they were both so like, she can't know. And then I ended up finding out like it's World of Warcraft.
Wow.
I was like, what is World of Warcraft? So I never got into that. But yeah, that's my gaming story.
There's a lot of people that burn a lot of money in World of Warcraft because a lot of the add-ons are pay per play. So yeah.
Oh yeah, that's how they.
No, I heard that there was this photographer.
I proudly boast. Hold on, I proudly boast in Command and Conquer. I am not a paid member, yet I rank 27th overall last week in the Battles Challenge, and I got a screenshot to prove it. Mind you, I didn't last to that point for very long, but got it. Overall, I'm like 100.
This photographer told me that there was a girl that like was hooking up with guys, like running ads, and like she was sleeping with guys to like get a dragon. I was like, something about a flying animal. I said, what?
There were a few of these stories that came out of like GamerCon and such. Yeah, there's a lot of
wait, time out. Like, this brings me up.
Weird drama,
whole, like LARPing thing. We were in Las Vegas. I have to tell them this. We were in Las Vegas, and we're sitting there, and then I didn't.
Alan, a mutual friend of ours
starts discussing LARPing, like how he was a part of this group, and they would say like they were vampires by like a vampire group, and like I was like, wait, what? You were part of a group that like at night you were vampire vigilantes. What do you mean? And then he starts talking about like LARPing, and I was like, whoa. And then he's like, so I was like, wait, I was like, this is live action. I'm like, how come I wasn't hanging out with anyone that cool? And they're like, no, Julia, it's not cool. And I was like, this sounds cool because most of the time, you have people wearing masks. and they present themselves in a way of like, I'm this, I'm caring, I'm into you, or I'm all about this, I'm all about love and light, when really I'm toxic and I'm really negative and a hater. But you have people disguising themselves, right? Of who they really are and what they're really about. So you have to already decipher that. So I was like, wait, these people are exercising their subconscious mind and desires in a healthy way. I was like, this is elevated. I was like, tell me more. LARPing? And so I look over to Hans and I'm like dying laughing because like I'm processing this information because I think it's great. I think it's healthy. I think it's great. I think like, why can't more people do this? Because everyone's just pretending not to do this. And that's the problem in a lot of these communities and relationships and dating, and people are pretending to be something that they're not. And that's what's causing all these problems and toxicity and into problems. So I was like I turned to Hans and I was like, wait, tell me about LARPing. And he's like,
I have to look up my local LARPing because like, if me and Amber got to dress up as like me as a knight and her as like some like powerful sorceress that gets to beat me up with like a wooden like sword for an hour to like let out some rage, like that'd be some great therapy for her. I could handle that.
I was seeing all the positives in it, but then he was saying his names. He's like, oh gosh, I was a dick. He's like, oh man, what was his name? Ronaldo. Like he was like, oh my god, he started shit with the prince. I said, there's princes. There's princes. Prince and vampire. Like you're that's active imagination. That's healthy. Having an active imagination and expressing that in a healthy way.
Believe me this, I'm dating myself now. Before the internet, back strangely to symbology, it's like we didn't have
what? There was
were you LARPing
before the internet?
There was, and so we would.
Are you talking about LARPing? Yes, your personal LARPing experience?
We would do Dungeons and Dragons. Okay, yes. Right, all right. So you don't necessarily act these things out, but weirdly,
they have played Magic
in the 80s. There was this movie called Mazes and Monsters with Tom Hanks, and he and his friends got a little too deep into LARPing, and they took it very real. And they ended up in New York City and, on the verge of jumping off the observation deck of the Empire State Building. And so, people take this a little too seriously sometimes.
But don't people do that in their natural lives, though, where they're like, that's what I always say. I call it
are we all not just actors in our own lives?
Well, I call it I always call it the moron's journey, where I was like, okay, you start off like great and innocent and this and that, and then you try on all these different massive, like, hey, I'm gonna try being this, I'm gonna try doing that, and then you realize like you peel off all the layers and you're like, I need to shed all this, only to get back down to like the beautiful part of to be your authentic self, who you were originally. So that's why I call it the moron's journey, because you were that originally to start with, and you tried thinking you weren't, and then you try all these different things, and ultimately you're not that, and then you come back, to that.
This is literally the path of the tarot, and the hero's journey. You start off as the Joker, the moron, and then all of a sudden you move forward through your path. And you become all these different elements, the mage, the king, the prince, whatever, on the male side. And then the female side has their own journey as well. And so this is the tarot. The tarot is really interesting. What are you showing here, Bernie? Are you on mute?
Some ancient alchemical document chart, and I think this is key with the sun and the moon and the different alchemical phases, each one of these being a planet, and that I believe that these are actually, well, this is the sun, it's also gold.
It's the black sun,
but it's also gold, and it's also the right hand rule with electrical engineering. And it represents energy, and then you have the sun and the moon down here, and that they map them, and that it's these symbols represent. I
was going to say, diving back into the symbology and ancient symbols. So, screen right, which would be stage left, whatever, is the circle over the cross. Okay, so this today is the symbol of the female or the woman, however you want to gender it. But that is traditionally the circle and the cross. Okay, in ancient times, this was the ankh, and the ankh was always known as the key of life. And you always see in a lot of the hieroglyphs the netters or the natures, or what they would call gods and goddesses. But as I said in the last show, the netters are more aspects of nature, aspects of the divine, than gods and goddesses, and this stems over multi cultures. And so instead of being gods and goddesses, they were natures. Anyway, but they're always holding the ankh, and the ankh is known as the key of life. But if you really look at the ankh, this kind of gets into where we were going with magics and symbols. We got super sidetracked like a million times, but that's all good. In ancient times, there were 3 magical symbols. We'll get back to the ankh in a few minutes. The 3 magical symbols were the triangle, the circle, and the square. Okay, and to the Zoroastrians, the triangle, the circle, and the square, if stacked correctly, would be the symbol of man, or the human. And here we have another word spell, because if you break hue and man apart, hue is color and man. So you have the colored man, the hue man. We all are colored, right? A little bit of word symbology there. Okay. But
and
then,
spell casting and enslavement of humanity.
It's crazy. It really is. So then to the Zen Buddhists, you also have the overlap of the triangle, the circle, and the square. And this was the symbology of the universe, or the unity of all of us. Okay. And so if you look at these 3 symbols, today I can make them in 2 seconds on Illustrator, but in the old days, we had to use a compass, a square, and a squared rule to make them. And so these are strangely the Masonic symbols as well, the compass and the square with the G in the middle. Anyway, God gematriizes everything. So here you have the G in the middle, which is an amazing symbol as well. Anyway, you take the triangle, the circle, and the square, and if you use them as just line art or line symbology, and you want to apply numbers to them, the circle is 0 or 1, so it has 1 side. The triangle has 3 sides, right? 1, 2, 3, and the square has 4 sides. And so you add that up, and you have 8. Here we are back at 8. This amazing symbology.
At the infinite, right? The Mobius thread.
This is the symbol of human, the human, or the infinity of the universe to the Zen Buddhist. Okay, so we have this overlap. We can then add multipliers to this. So let's add colors. So the triangle becomes red, the circle becomes blue, and the square becomes green. Okay, well, RGB. If these are light colors, as we're staring into our light, bright computer screens and other lights, okay, if you overlap a red light, a green light, and a blue light, you will get a bright white light. Okay, so it's an alchemical light symbol.
Spectrum.
Full spectrum.
The gold, the transmutation of gold light.
It's all there in the color spectrum. If you use them as pigments, so you have red, green, and blue as a pigment, you create a rich black. So this is the alluvian soil, the chem. This is where alchemy comes into play. So you have light alchemy and you have physical alchemy. Okay, so let's step it up a level. Let's take it to another multiplier. So the red triangle becomes the red triangle of fire. Okay. The blue circle becomes the blue circle of water. The green square becomes the green square of earth. And so here you have alchemical symbols. Hey, I'm seeing you're moving your color spectrum there. Thank you. That's awesome. Good on that.
And I just have to interject for why I randomly change the other colors and backgrounds is like, if you haven't caught on, it's for different topics when we change it. And then later I go edit it and make it into shorts. And it's just like easy ways to make it look like different videos, and at the same time mark it as timestamps, essentially.
And you were changing them while I was talking about red, green, and blue. So that's even more fascinating. Okay, so you get
Back
this
to
rich.
blue.
You get the rich black when you mix these together. And
Oh,
so
we're going black. It's all black.
alchemy is when you take the sacred water, the distilled water, whether it's from urine or from nature or from chemistry, right? The distilled water. You take the black or the red alluvian soil, right? Okay, so this rich soil, red earth, rich soil, and you take the green or sorry, red, green, blue, or sorry, RGB. So that's what we're trying to mix together, and you create the black philosopher's stone. There we are, exactly. And
Yeah,
so
that's
the philosopher's stone goes through white phase, it goes through red phase, but it eventually ends up in a black phase. And so right there,
I have to state, though, this is very interesting, is that when I make monoatomic gold, you got yellow, but when it's sunset, it turns to black.
it turns to
And
black.
that you get the black out of the gold, and it turns to black gold.
Interesting. And so that is your alchemical form within these three shapes. But let's take it one level further, another multiplier. So you can add dimensionality to this. Okay, so the red fire triangle becomes the red fire tetrahedron. So it's a pyramid would be a base of 4 and then 4 sides, but a tetrahedron is 3 sides, 3 sides, 3 sides, 3 sides. So it's 4 sides of 3. Okay. So that's the fire element, right? The red fire tetrahedron. To the Greeks, this was the pyramid, pyramidion, the fire within the middle, okay? So that's why it's a pyramid. Then you have the blue water sphere, okay? So here's your sphere element, right? Okay. And then third, you have your green square cube. This is your earth element. And the cube is very significant. If you look at something like the Rubik's Cube, you have 6 sides. You have 9 facets on each side. Here's our magical 9 again. 9 times 6 is what? 54. 54 is 5 plus 4, 9.
So they attached color to geometry to
Bingo.
numbers.
And each of those sides are one of our 6. It's one of our 6 continents. North America, South America, Eurasia, Africa, Australia, Antarctica. So those are the 6 continents. And to solve the Rubik's Cube, right, you got to rearrange all this. Okay. So that's the cube. And so if you look at those 3 elements and you stack them, you have the water element, which becomes the head. You have the tetrahedron, which becomes the body, or the upper torso, and then you have the cube, which becomes the grounded element of the body, the bottom torso. So why is the head the element of water? Well, we have our tear ducts, right? We have inner ear fluid that allows us to hear things. We have our mucous membranes in our nostrils. We have our salivary glands, right? When we sweat, the first place we start to perspire is through our hair or our head. I see Julia.
I looked up and I freaking saw Jeremiah was in the room and I just screamed. I was like,
Right. Yes. Awesome.
yes. You know what I was going to do? I was just going to start. I was going to turn my mic on and just say things that I would have thought would magnetize Jeremiah, like propulsion. Like
right from the
magnets,
beginning,
and just start whispering elements, like maybe it would cause them to come in. So this is great.
Well, because last time we had Jeremiah on, he got through physical fields, symbols like the swastika, the Om, the Alpha, and what do you have for us this week, good Jeremiah, sir? You working in the lab, we see, spinning
Of course, and
away.
Yeah, so what we're looking at here is my version of the Tavares magnetodynamic space drive. It's just a tiny model, only has a 3.5-inch disc on it. It's made out of this circuit board type of material, G6 phenolic. The stuff is really strong. So to tell you guys something interesting, I think most people in the audience are at least basically familiar with the principles of a gyroscope. Once you pull that ripcord and that thing is spinning, there's no counter torque against the frame except for the friction there because it's slowing down. But if you were to keep it at a constant RPM, if you had a motor inside and it, kept it at a constant RPM like this does, what would happen is if the motor is accelerating, spinning like this, the frame gets a counter force that moves in the opposite direction. So the motor pulls against it. And at some point, the RPMs of the rotor and the RPMs of the rest of the frame and the motor, they'll reach equilibrium. So they're no longer changing, no more acceleration. And at that point, it should come back to rest exactly where it started, because that is the basics of Newtonian's laws of motion. Equal and opposite forces, when everything is in balance, it should be exactly at the same spot that it started, because it's being held up by this extended 4-point pendulum. And that hangs across that truss bar there overhead. So the way I have it set up right now, move my phone a bit to the right and to the left. You can see that there are two threads here. You see this first thread, this second thread, and so that's what's holding it up right now. And unfortunately, in this test, it's got two power wires on the bottom. So those power wires are unfortunately going to affect slightly the ability of this device to generate a linear force or pull in that direction. But what you'll see is that once I spin this thing up and we hit about 16 or so volts, the mark on this cup, this black mark here, and the mark on this cover, which is blocking the air currents and the flows so that we don't get the effects of aerodynamics on this thing, well, they're going to allow us to see if those two actually stay in the same position with each other, or if there's a genuine counter torque against free space or against the vacuum, proving that we're converting angular momentum into a linear force. So let's go ahead and turn that voltage up now.
Oh, I'm so excited.
I love the sound it makes, but it's probably noise canceling it out. So it's going to be...
Dude, that sounds like a Lamborghini.
So I'm using a wrist device that literally is a gyroscope. And the whole idea is to balance it, but it like works your wrists and arms out. And this is interesting to see this working in the same capacity.
As I can show you here, you see how this front string is no longer in alignment with this back string all the way up to the top of the pendulum.
Yep.
Tension point. And so it's reached a stable RPM. It's not airflow blowing this thing around because we've covered that up with this shield. And even if I do move it, it won't change the fact that it's basically going to be pulling to that one side. So it's both farther away from the cup than it started in that direction, because that's the direction of its torque, and it's holding a permanent twist. Now I'm going to try to slowly decrease the RPMs, hopefully without it being into the cup, because now the force is going to go in the opposite direction. The gyroscopic precession that had been built up, forming the non-Newtonian third law violation force, is now going to pull back in the other direction as those spin precessions are shifted the opposite 90 degrees.
Now it's going spinning in the other direction.
Right, until we get down to the original starting RPM, at which point it will come to rest exactly where it started. But not until the RPM completely ceases. Even just this tiny little bit of deceleration that's happening now is too much to allow it to come to rest. It's got to come all the way down here. And as we can see, those two marks, they're once again aligned. So it was pulling really far, and now they're in alignment again with each other. And this is a space drive. It's a type of space drive. I'll be very shortly going over there to Mark's New Jersey lab, and we're going to be working together to build a stupidly powerful version of this that we predict could make as much as a pound of force.
That is absolutely epic news to hear, my friend. And you're going to have to, once you do that, can't wait till you start putting things like mercury and monatomics into this spinning mass.
Well, I got to be very careful about what I talk about regarding that.
Well, just the fact that it's spinning, I feel like there's so many, like, I'm sure
don't
people
wanna know
at like
this about it.
Alchemist had like a lot of profound
Sorry.
results because they're looking at how, like, I talk about how it spins in a vortex, our cerebral spinal fluid and our heart, like in there. So seeing
Yes,
this,
ma'am.
yeah, like seeing this and like it just reminds me of the divine technology that's inside of us, and I feel like studying that probably has profound experiment
This is divine
invention qualities.
technology.
Applying that.
The symbology of the divine. There's always spinning going on in it, right?
Yeah, for our water needs it
Is
too
there
to make it
divine?
living, structured water. It needs to spin in a certain way.
It was the weird thing that I wanted to mention about this. All those drawings that I had showed on prior shows, and that entire crazy series of Alpha, the Omega, the Swastika.
Yeah,
the
what
double
you showed
pivot,
in the last
all that
wow,
stuff,
that was
right? You know where it came from? It came
beyond.
from playing with that thing. It was actually in the construction of that device
And
that
there-
I experienced something that I can only describe as truly
So
phenomenal.
you made that. So Jeremiah, that's what you were talking. That's the
I did not
device.
that again. That's why it's called the Tavares magnetodynamic space drive. Harold Tavares invented it.
Magnetodynamics.
I
Okay.
replicated it in my own version, and I did something quite different than what he had done.
Hmm.
The similarities between the two devices, what my version does and what his version does is I'm using a pinched, canceled magnetic field in the center, and he's using an expanded large magnetic field on the edge. So it's a little bit different in terms of the way that the fields are oriented, but ultimately the device does the same thing. They both take advantage of a weird interaction that is in fact impossible to, like I mentioned earlier, impossible to be classified under the limitations of the laws of thermodynamics or Newtonian laws of motion, because both of those things have a prerequisite. If you just read the definition, the prerequisites for them to be applicable as arguments against whether this drive could produce its own reactionless force are: one, the laws of thermodynamics and Newton's laws of motion must be between things that are in the same frame of reference. And in this case, we have a rotating rotor, which is not in the same frame of reference as the stationary stator and the observer. And two, they must be in a closed system. So in this case, in order for everything to be equal and opposite, the system would have to be closed. But it's not, because it's actually reacting against the local aether, that ZPF, and it will
like
be
a
directly
plasma
affect
flow reaction.
It's becoming my like advice to everyone. I was speaking to somebody that's like extracting specific essential oils out of marijuana, and I was like, just put it in a spinning vortex. And then they did. They designed something and made something and made it, and they were like, "Oh my God, Julia, you have no idea what you just unlocked." No idea what I just created.
Spin it. God's divine twister. Just spin it, baby.
Yeah, it's weird standing around with this thing too, because you just start to feel better. It makes you happy. It's hard to describe, but I think
the sound of it though, Eve seems to harmonize, like even just the sound.
The sound really.
And then I'm sure the field of it spinning and that changing. I love that sound. It reminds me of a Lamborghini. Dude, it reminds me of a Lamborghini, which makes me so sad because I go to a Lamborghini party, Christmas party every year. You know what they told me last Christmas party? They said, Julia, you're not going to hear that sound anymore. I said, what? I'm not going to be coming and hanging out with you guys anymore.
We don't
and
see
it's
a
going
Lamborghini
electric
for 6 months of the year, let alone Christmas. I'm so jealous. I'm sorry.
No, but dude, they're not going to sound like that anymore.
Yeah,
What's the point of buying one then? Like, it's the sound for me. Oh, but that's what it sounds like, Jeremiah. Because I've always been like, what is that sound? What is that frequency?
That's the sound of a very fast rise in fall time happening. My guess would be inside of a Lamborghini. That's just probably the intense power of its massive engine and the compression burst that you're hearing resonate the entire frame of the engine and probably consequently the body as well.
I want to know what frequency that is.
16 pistons.
Well, it depends on how hard you put the gas pedal. But in this case, they found that about 250 hertz works real well to produce a really nice feeling. Which, Yeah, 250. So that's 250 hertz in this case is a pretty slow RPM. It turns out there's actually a dangerous frequency to run it too, where not only does it make way more noise, but it actually starts to make you feel a little bit sick to be around. And that will be at
the higher pitch
hertz, which is exactly, I think, 200, was that, or 250 RPMs, 5,000 hertz. Yeah, that's what it was. So yeah, 250 RPMs, 5,000 hertz. There are 12 magnets on this thing. Hope I'm getting my math right here. Doesn't
Wait,
really...
is that the picture? Like after your presentation, when I hopped in, it had like 12, like the circular thing. That's what it is.
Yeah. Oh, that. If I showed it, then that's that little difference.
Oh, because I got chills when I saw that thing. That thing's gonna do something profound. I don't know what
Oh
it is
man,
yet.
it feels so weird to be around. It's wonderful. I think this thing is just so much fun. I built hundreds upon hundreds of different drives. I mean, hell, I'll turn my camera back on again. I mean, just take a look at the categories here. I mean, we're talking, displacement field drives, high voltage power supplies, an entire box filled with high voltage power supplies. Some of them going up to almost 200,000 volts. Just a box of them. Motors and drives, mechanical propulsion, it's reactionless, dielectrics, all kinds.
You have nice writing, Jeremiah, or is that Liminal's writing?
No, it's I perfected my writing because I used to do box storage, and then over here we've got
Of course, you have beautiful writing to go, like penmanship skills to boot.
You did more than perfected. Okay, can we just have a moment of silence for Jeremiah's writing capability? His penmanship. That's amazing.
Props to
I'm not lazy, which is not most of the time, but I pretty much 24/7 it's electric gravity. It's the fun stuff. The fun stuff is in the plasma chambers and all that other good things. Now I can't show you.
What do you think about him saying plasma is consciousness, Jeremiah?
Dude, it responds. You get your hand close to it, you immediately start to see it move, especially if you get it in a very, very low energy state.
People would just say that's a reaction, though, that it's not like consciousness.
It's not. Well, the thing is that it's not really consciousness per se. It's almost as if there seems to be some kind of
self-organization,
ability to react to the external environment that it's part of the physical vacuum. So it's almost like the consciousness is simply already present in every point in space and time.
It's embodying it.
Right. And then the plasma is slightly higher energy than the surrounding space. So it responds to this thing that you would call that background consciousness, which is normally invisible.
Right. So it's showing form to something that we can't see with our eyes, but we sense.
Right. And the plasma gives it form.
Yeah. Lightning would do that too, maybe.
Yes.
Well, there is that story of the guy who got struck, like 12 times?
Mm-hmm.
Same guy. I think a guy actually struck
through.
Like
that's so
friend of mine, Danny and Brinkley, was struck like 4 times and pronounced dead. And his story is pretty amazing.
So
look up Danny and Brinkley.
Yeah, I mean, so I don't know. Maybe lightning can respond to consciousness. I have no idea. I mean, I haven't.
Well, we are all electromagnetic, and we're receiving messages from our sun.
Definitely responds to lasers, and I don't recommend shooting laser pointers at lightning.
Oh my gosh! I was trying to convince.
Oh my god, it's scary.
I have one of those as a lava lamp.
I showed that for the reference of if you really were curious about can plasma actually respond to consciousness, I recommend getting one of those things, because there's your easy to buy Spencer's gift shop
Before you came on, Bernie we were talking about plasma consciousness through Tesla coil. Yeah, exactly.
Oh yeah.
I have one upstairs. Instead of a round one or one like this, mine's like the shape of a lava lamp, and man, it's very sensitive. Super sensitive lava lamp.
No, that's awesome. Yeah, it's kind of funny. Tesla coils especially are going to be extra sensitive because their plasmas, especially the high frequency ones, those little kits that you can get on Amazon or eBay or
I bought one. I haven't built it yet though. I don't have the right tech to actually build it. But I have one of those where you can build your own.
Oh, it's super easy to put together, man. Just watch a 20-minute tutorial and you'll be done.
I think I gave it to my friend's son. I was like, here, enjoy. They're more tech than I am, so yeah.
It's a fun no, but yeah, because it's all electric fields, they're going to be electrostatically affected by the surrounding objects, and so every single thing in the room is basically a capacitive terminal to that Tesla coil spark. And it's going to want to try to reach evenly towards all those points, and the ones that are closest will it'll reach more towards them. So if you get close enough to one of these high output, high frequency Tesla coils, sparks will start coming out of your finger, even if they're not coming out of the Tesla coil terminal itself, which is also kind of interesting because that runs around and dances over your finger, and it tickles, and if you let it get too hot, it'll burn your skin. But otherwise, it's kind of fun just to have a little lightning bolt shooting out of your fingers.
What was it? Fritz Albert discovered light emanating from like fingertips or whatever and showed it.
St. Elmo's fire, I believe you may be referring to.
Look at this though. It's following my finger. The plasma follows. Woo, on, ah.
Yeah, I mean it's expensive. It's purified ionized gas. Definitely give you some good capability. So hey, if
a neon light, interesting.
Right, if you think you're a powerful psychic and you have some plasma that's moving around, sit there and stick your fingers on the sides of your temples and look like somebody out of Men Who Stare at Ghosts, and try to move that plasma around, Uri Geller style, and have some fun with it. You just might see something move.
Interesting.
That's about the best advice I can give on that one, though. I'm not.
So we're
Jeremiah, your presentation was amazing.
That's like the light body symbology right there. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Humans, I think we can do a lot
science
more than we think.
Yeah.
Should I finish the last two phases of my symbology?
Oh yeah, go ahead. I didn't mean to jump.
No, your interjection was well received. So we were talking about the sphere of the head being liquid, right? So the upside down triangle or tetrahedron is the generator organs of the body. So you have the heart, which is not pumping, it's more fluid. What's going on here?
Need to do that.
It's more of a sponge that pulses. Julia can attest to that a little more than I can about the heart, but
okay. You want me to say what I always say about the heart? That's not a steady flow. It is not a steady flow, ladies and gentlemen. It's not just a steady stream that I assumed, and I don't know why I thought that, because maybe I was taught that in the blood flow, it's two streams that spin around a third ventricle, and it doesn't just do that. It's the cerebral spinal fluid flows like that. And then you look at like structured living water, and you got to put it in a vortex that spins it a certain way. That's like imperative to our health. Like that's what I was saying. Like if you emulate the design of the way things are inside of us, you start to emulate that in things, like it makes a difference, like big time, right? Like emulating the divine tech inside of us.
Correct.
But what about it? What else about the heart?
I was just saying
there's three chambers. There's the atriatic.
Talking about how the heart pumps, but really it isn't a pump.
It's not a pump. It's it's a myocardial, helicoidal, a band. It's a band, and you unroll it, and there's three chambers in it. But it like works. It functions as an endocrine gland, and it has like its own. It emits these things. I'm like, oh my god, it's like its own little brain. It has a network. It has a network inside of it.
Yeah. So anyway, these are the generator organs within the tetrahedron. That's why I wanted you to present that, because it makes it more of a generator than this pump that pumps our blood. So it's like a generator, heat engine organ. We also have our lungs.
It's funny that you're bringing this up, and it instantly to my mind brings back these pictures that I saw that I think came from oh my goodness, now I can't remember his name, the famous Tom Bearden. There we go, naval scientist.
Tom Bearden,
right? But Tom Bearden and they're these pyramids, and then there are these double helix energy like vortexes coming out of them, and it was like some energy they were pumping them with.
So the pyramid double
And
helix
it's-
energy is known as the Merkaba. So you have the tetrahedron on top of each other, making in a two-dimensional space the Star of David or the Key of Solomon. And one spins one direction, one
Key of
spins the
Solomon
Yes.
is the tetragrammaton, the
Yes, it
tetrahedron.
is.
Interesting.
And the inner shape is the octahedron, and this is in a physical form. This would be Darth Vader's meditation chamber in Empire Strikes Back. The clamshell that comes together. That's an octahedron. And so inside of this shape, this Merkaba technology, he can project his consciousness to Luke, the Emperor, other Sith, and Jedi practitioners. Okay. So that's the tetragrammaton. The octahedron is the center of shape. But it also represents this cube in a sense. Yeah, but we were anyway back to the generation organs. And so you have your lungs. They process your oxygen to create fuel for the body. Your heart processes your blood to create fuel for the body. Your liver and pancreas and digestive organs and stomach process the food that you ingest or the liquid that you ingest to create fuel for the body. And so no wonder the pyramid is the pyramidion, the fire within, right? So here you have in the Zoroastrian, the tradition, the circle or the sphere or the water sphere. Now we have the fire upside down fire torso. With the women, the sacred regenerative organs are within this area as well. And so they create the fire of a new life, a new generator, a new generation, right? Okay. So then underneath that, you're on mute, Bernie. Bernie on mute.
Probably for the best. Probably for the best. But I was gonna say for like the plasma of new life as well, and that fire
Right, correct.
is
That's
plasma.
all within
So
that.
anytime that's a
That
huge part of
generation torso.
this alchemy science. Yeah, and so like this, what I've deciphered is like the four elements are actually the four states of elements, right? You have earth, which is solid. You have water, which is liquid. You have air, which is gas, and you have fire, which is plasma. And then it says plus the elements, and well, that's the periodic table of elements.
Love.
And then
the fifth element, right?
Exactly. So
So
it's like
anyway,
when you
yeah.
understand fire as plasma, that just that symbol as well, and just the complexity of how many meanings and like
Plasma is a
interconnected
generator. It's alive.
importances
It has its own energy.
It's our
field.
blood.
It's our blood or our healing blood, not just our blood. The healing blood is the plasma. And so if you study plasma, it takes on an intelligence of itself. Anyway, so that's the generator elements of the upside down pyramidion or tetrahedron. The bottom shape of this, the Zoroastrian shape of the man, is Earth. Okay, and so Earth is grounded. We're grounded in this cube, the cube of Earth. We're grounded to it. Our excrement fertilizes it. Okay, our shit and our piss, whatever, our feces and our urine. They regenerate the earth in a sense, as do all of this from animals. It creates new nitrogen. It creates a fertilizer base, so on and so forth. Okay. This all comes
So
from the lower.
I have to just bring up one aspect of this, and that like, so there's these extremes where people will take like blood or piss or feces, and for the sake of the ormus of it, which is the monoatomics that are contained within it, both the metal element ormus, but also your own nanobiology ormus or plasma materials, and that that's a way for it to like get a little bit of it to recycle it and then like take it back, and then like your body reuses it, sort of thing. But it's like you're going through extreme, like disgusting-ish means to obtain it, whereas there's now through alchemy there's these other ways of I guess just making it this your own material and not having to go through such extremes. But that's a rabbit hole for a whole nother day.
Not to shock anybody in the audience, I know a lot of women who collect their menstrual blood and give it back to the earth. And this is an interesting practice because
then you're giving your energy into it. Yes,
whoa. What did I miss?
Whoa.
Are we talking about menstruation and ingesting that? Like, I just got
giving it, collecting it, and giving it back to the earth, because it's interesting that menstrual blood in a garden will help the garden grow tremendously, because there's so much not just DNA, but stem cell in menstrual blood.
A lot of stem cells. No, but you guys,
exactly.
Anyway, I don't shed them.
I always talk about how
I just refer to all that material as Ormus material because it's this monoatomic, like nanobiological material stuff that it's like. And yeah, but it seems that you just need a little bit of your blood, and then you put it into the saltwater alchemy, gold on gold reactions, or silver on silver, even copper on copper, and it will start making more of it exponentially. So you don't need to collect your urine, feces, or menstrual bloods, but rather just a pinprick of blood, and into some salt water with a little bit of electricity, and boom, you've got endless amounts of it. So revolutionizing that starfire
material. Goes right back into it. So the cube earth element of our lower torso, especially with men, this is where our sacred seed comes from, our fertility. And so our feces through man, woman, whatever, is still a fertility element back to the earth. But to the man, our sacred symbol, our sacred fertility is in our lower loins, or the earth element as well. And that's what then feeds into the fire or generator element that creates life again. And so it's like, it comes from above with the water and the generator food element, and it comes from below with the fertility element. And it's this overlapping infinity symbol, which is the Kundalini energy.
Why is it that every rocket looks like it's going into a whirlpool of water in the heavens above? That is one thing I just don't understand.
So, TV shows, the Brookings Report in the 50s, NASA said, hey, if we go into space and we find artifacts that are ours, artifacts that are somebody else's, present or ancient, how do we inform humanity about this? I'm horribly paraphrasing this. And Brookings came back and said, you can't. But if you were to, right, you would roll it out slowly through the drip of disclosure. And this is what we were talking about at the beginning of the show. And so, well, how would you do that? Well, in the 50s, all you had was TV and radio. Well, here's War of the Worlds all of a sudden, and it's like they're starting to drop this pinprick of alien invasion.
Right, the freak out on the radio.
Right, that was one of the first elements that came out. And then you had Star Trek and Flash Gordon.
One of the first false flag psyops.
Right. And then Star Wars and Alien, and then, all of a sudden Battlestar Galactica and Buck Rogers, and it just starts unfolding and unfolding and unfolding. And now we have streaming media, and we have 55 channels that have like 300,000 shows that are all disclosure shows or misdirection or misinformation. But early on, Gene Roddenberry, whatever you want to think of him, really put something into Star Trek. There was something there. He wanted people to know that.
Didn't he base it off Urantia?
Possibly, but just I'm more into the message than the trivia, the background of it. I mean, I really haven't looked into that, quite honestly. Sorry. But God, some of the topics and some of the ideas that he came out with in that time frame or that time period were very, fighting against the system that was. Okay, give it that. But then we flash forward into, more elements of today. My God, you've got, Stargate, so much disclosure in that TV show. Unbelievable. And then, future forward and onwards. And then it's kind of gotten lost in the rungs because they want to roll out other things. Well, now that we've mesmerized you through Hollywood, another symbology there. In the ancient days, the Hollywood was the wand that the druids and the wizard used to project sparkly magic in front of you to dispel you and tell stories to you. Well, today Hollywood does the same thing through light magic on a silver screen. So just fruit for magic there. But yeah, getting into all this, it's yeah. Here we have the tether incident. Wow.
What are we looking at?
Have you never seen this?
Right? What are we looking at? Is it a freaking elephant up there? Is it a petri dish? What the frick is up there?
So supposedly what happened was they were releasing
what is plasma in the fourth dimension?
A 12-mile tether from one of the space shuttles. It's a wire.
12-mile long, correct.
12-mile long wire. And it disconnected from the crowd.
But not just wire, intricately woven wire. Yeah. So it was like a fractal ray antenna.
Correct. And here you have 1.5 mile craft going under this thing.
What the F is that? Right? What is that 1.5 mile large jellyfish, blinking jellyfish freaking flying by? Like, so what's that one that just appeared there too? Oh,
so
what's the really big one there that's like bigger than the tent itself that just appeared? What is that giant circle that's in the background there that's taking up half the screen now?
That's the light spectrum. So it's reflecting off of particles.
Okay, so that's light spectrum, and then everything else.
But here you have all these blinky objects coming in underneath this. Yeah, it's. Say what? So in one of the Voyager episodes, they go into the space of species 182 or whatever, and it's all fluidic space. And so they're kind of giving you that wink, wink, nudge, nudge that maybe space is a fluidic medium. It's not water, obviously. There's water in it. We've noticed this recently with the James Webb Telescope, looking at other solar systems and realizing that there are planetoids or suns that have massive amounts of water vapor around them. So obviously water exists in this medium. And then the question is, what is dark matter, right? So you have a fluidic medium that
right here forming in space. And what looks like a cube.
Instantly.
Why is there a hexagon like a cube and a sphere?
That's a lensing effect.
Look at that reflection.
That's just the very precise.
I know it's lensing, but like the geometry is so.
That's
like
part
the
of the
fact
lens,
that we've got a hexagon, a cube, and a sphere forming. That's what I find fascinating. A red, green, and blue.
Right.
A red hexagon, a blue or green cube, and a blue sphere.
You're correct.
Fascinating.
Is this audio okay, by the way?
A red hexagon again up there, and another pinky red. Like what?
It makes me wonder what kind of filtration they're using, because obviously, what's missing from this photo? Stars.
Look it down there. All dead because a giant tsunami flushed through that and then poisoned it with salt water, and you can see the runoff where it dried out, and that's why there's no life, because something fucked it up 12,000 years ago. And
where do you guys think our souls came from? I mean, like, do you think our souls are from Earth? I think our souls are from Earth or somewhere else?
No. well, maybe a mix, but I suspect my own. Like, I resonate with Mars a lot more, and then it's like, who even knows from there? Because it's like,
How
it
do you
was part
feel
of
about
Moon,
Devon
but, like,
Island?
the bigger planet that exploded. That's now the asteroid belt.
Never been there. Do you need a visa?
So I don't know.
No, but the whole Devon Island thing was
I would like
I
to
love
go.
that.
Jeremiah, Jeremiah, you're a ticket to these places. How long till we can go, sir?
How high do you want to fly?
I at least want to experience the freaking space blinkies. I want to see guys. I want to go talk to them.
Well, you don't need to go out there to experience those. You just need a really high-powered telescope that has proper lens coatings to transmit very effectively deep infrared in the short wavelengths. So, or I'm sorry, in the extremely long wavelengths. So, into like your 1 to 2 micrometer range, very, very large photons. Anyways, yeah, you set up a telescope to observe that, and you can't even do it from the ground. A lot of people have videos where they're showing the same kind of stuff just from Earth-based locations, and preferably, locations way far away from the city. Some of them at high altitudes to kind of get over the cloud cover or any fog.
This guy, look at that blinky.
Whatever these things are, is pretty interesting. I always kind of figured it was a lens artifact.
I want to be friends with the blinkers.
NASA says that they're ice particles.
It's just wild how the lenses on board.
Yeah, look at this blinky ice particle right there. Eh? Look at this.
Well, the blinkiness is because a lot of this was filmed off of another screen, and so you get that artifact with it. We know that with the research, but the fact that they're going under the wire is where everybody is like, "What is going on here? What are these objects?"
Yes, under
the blinkiness is just an artifact of the filming. That was my take from it.
Okay.
Either way, it
or
does
they're
look
bioluminescent.
Looks just like some Space Invaders video games. So whatever they are, it's awesome looking footage, isn't it?
Like,
you can imagine just flying a
actual
little starship around
space.
there using the joystick control, right?
All right, like, I don't get it. I don't get it. Never a straight answer, those fucks.
So what I've got set up right now might be kind of interesting. I'm just waiting for my phone to charge. I have a variable input controller with adjustable frequency for my plasma globe. And I just modified the driver. And so I can set up so that it's producing just one single beam in the center. And I wonder if your audience might be just curious enough or interested in all concentrating to try and make that beam move to the right or to the left.
Are we doing a live conscious test experiment of left or right beam plasma?
I don't see why not. I mean, it's already sitting there, so all I've got to do is
don't threaten me with a good time. That sounds great.
Yes, we're just waiting for however fast that thing can charge up, and then I'll take it over there and I'll just let it sit there and run. Mute that whole system out, and if you guys want to try something interesting, by all means, it could be fun.
By all means, anyone just needs to just stare at Liminal's like her wall decor. It's unbelievable.
That mural beautiful.
It would open. They could dimensionally travel after looking at that.
While looking at it.
Wow, yeah, it's gonna like activate parts of their DNA that they didn't even know was inside of them.
I'll tell you what, there are some times and days when you're doing something a little special that wall tapestry is just, it takes you to another world. She told me the moment she got it, she instantly knew to have it. Not even a moment of hesitation, and she knew just what to do with it. So,
wait, she said the moment she got it, she what?
The moment she seen it for sale, she instantly knew she had to have it. She probably seen like the course of the next many years in her mind in just a brief moment, knowing fully well that she was going to use that thing to have fantastic liminal experiences.
You guys are so special. Rare.
Well, we're weird at least. That's for sure.
Everyone here, because it's Weird Wild Wednesdays turning into Thursdays, and soon it's going to be weekend at Bernie's, and it's all a great time because we're now deep into ancient mystery, symbology, science, and putting it all together
I
into
guess I'm going to
one
go ahead before it
epic
gets
show.
too late. And
Gone all over the map with it.
So let me go ahead and set this up again. Back in the StreamYard here. And then I'll just plug the phone and let it charge over there so that you guys can just stare at it. And I'll come back to this account.
All right, and we are going to be doing a live plasma conscious experiment with everyone here. First time on air, number 5, WooWoo Wednesday, but now it's Thursday, and I don't care. It's happening. Real science, alchemy, all with Hans Diet Rich, baby.
Dietrich.
All right, let's plug that sucker in, get it set up, and put my tripod right up over here. And then we can get it good.
There's 2 Jeremiahs. I don't know which one. Oh no, now you're Jeremiah A or Jeremiah B.
Don't worry, the camera will help you sort it out.
Yeah.
So
It's one and the same.
You know, easy ways to tell. So first thing I'm going to do is get these lights out of the way. 1 and 2. All right. We'll get rid of the other one too. There we go. And then we'll go ahead to the modulator and turn up that power. So this just allows me to basically control the input energy.
Houston,
So what
we
I'll
have
do is
power.
beam, so it's just reaching a tiny little bit towards that top plate. That's capacitive terminal. It's just acting as a floating ground. And if I can get that beam just right, it'd be really sweet. So let me see if I can zoom in here. All right, time to lower that down. I want to get the side view.
We are fucking nerds.
Right?
Oh,
I'm
there's
collecting the world's greatest group of nerds ever, and it's turning into wonderful things, right? Like with Jeremy, we got Gary Kent McKinnon joining in, and we got Hans, we got Julia, like wow, right? You weren't allowed wow because you were a COG champ. Freaking running with the Kings, like the King crew.
All right, so basically, that's pretty well balanced directly on top. So there's an equal chance that the plasma can go to the right or to the left in any direction. Now, allegedly, there was an interesting plasma experiment done some years ago where a series of online participants were asked to focus on a plasma beam a little bit more organized than this plasma beam, but still something similar to this, and asked to concentrate on trying to force it to go to the right. And so when someone would say start, everyone would think beam move to the right or beam move to the left. And there are allegedly reported results. Now, I've never ran a live experiment quite like this where we're actually looking for audience participation, psychic phenomena, but it would be very interesting to find out if it happens. So I'll let you just go ahead and run that experiment. You can tell them when to start and when to stop thinking about it, and we'll just look at the motion altogether, right?
All right. Oh, look at that. We got a split as everybody's like, am I going left or am I going right? Yeah, look at that. It's split again. So what are we writing in the chat, or what are we doing? How do we do this? Oh, it's hard left right there. Now, what do we do? Oh,
Is it
yeah.
us following it? Interesting. Huh.
It could be. You know, it looks to me like it does for some reason, and maybe it's the surrounding environment, but it does seem to have a preference to go towards the right side. So I wonder, can we force that beam to stay on the left side? That would be really cool. So let's ask everyone. Let's make this beam
For it
go
to
to
go
the
left. Oh, it's going in. No, come on. No, yeah. That was a hard left.
Yeah.
Then
I'll
it
turn
froze
on
for me.
heat doesn't affect it so much. Hopefully that'll hold. Darn you, silly thing. You know, I should just put that beam mechanism back on.
There we go. Now it went left, and then it keeps trying to go right, but then we wanted to go left. No, yeah, see, it breaks away trying to go left, man. Oh, there. Oh, yeah. And it's all powered up. Oh, it's going left. Oh, now it's angry. Oh.
You guys, the influence of my
now.
too. So,
there you go.
So this is our sun arc reacting
it's
to
just
our Earth.
part. It's not necessarily controlling it too much.
Now we see it. Now, yeah. Kaboom.
Well, I'll have to watch this video footage later because, you know, that's later analysis. I'm not even watching.
Absolutely. I think it was pretty fascinating. I don't know. I thought so we all have to watch it in the replay and see what she does, right?
Meantime, I'll hook up one more thing just because more than one thing is always more fun than less than one thing. So go ahead, shut that off, plug this in. All right, so I'm now going to give this thing a 3 million cycles per second signal instead of the previous 30 kilocycles per second that I gave it last time. So go ahead and flip this thing on. See if I can get this to go. Oh, looks like it's got unplugged. No wonder it's not working. Turns out things need to be plugged in.
Give the power.
Give me the power. There we go. Okay, so this is kind of interesting. Now, you've seen the colors of the plasma before were
wow,
and kind of
pure
blue.
white.
Right. So this globe
I've never
contains
seen plasma like that.
3 primary gases. It contains helium, contains neon, and it contains xenon. At this frequency, the very high energy longitudinal waves are activating the xenon plasma instead of the other one. So you notice I just placed my hand on the front or on the top, and we have this steady state. It's not frozen image. We have a steady state little plasma beam coming out of here. Now, if I am able to get my phone very, very close to that, you might be able to see something kind of curious at the tip of that beam. And this would be a more accurate kind of sensitive test. If I can get, okay. And so you'll notice that the beam generally stays pretty close, but it does just ever so slightly move to one side or the other. You can also see that the height changes depending on where my hand is. So this would be something that we'd have to actually look at in video analysis later. But if we wouldn't mind, just focus on that very tip of that beam, that tip right up there, and just imagine move to the right. Let's look at the analysis later and see if it does. My hands are away. I'm actually going to get away from the camera now to not affect the test. Okay, let's call that the end. And now, if everyone would, again, still live here, let's ask it to move to the left.
I saw it go right the first time. Now we're going left.
Okay, that should pretty well conclude the test. Well, that was about all I wanted to just share and finish up with for you guys tonight. I figured it'd be an interesting thing we can analyze later. And hey, if it turns out that it worked, then you've got some pretty curious footage to show.
I think it did. I think it honestly did.
That was fascinating.
Part of being real science on a woo Wednesday. Now it's Thursday, and yeah, we're past the 2-hour mark. Oh yes, we still have Jeremiah, just camera number 2, and last finishing words. Good sir, good gal, and other good sir.
Hope it was fun.
Thanks again for an amazing show, and yeah, the ability to express
Thanks for being a part of it and making it happen.
symbology across the boards.
Absolutely. And
I did like your entomological analysis of symbology and in the language. I thought that was pretty interesting. So it caught my attention enough. I'm like, oh, I gotta jump on there. Now this guy's he's talking about something that I'm curious about. So
be
Well, and
careful.
your awesome share
spells
in
you
the live
pass.
show that we did with that. It's amazing. So thank you for
yeah,
sharing
you pulled me in, man. So thanks.
that.
All right. When you write it, when you're using cursive light writing, you're writing a spell out. When you're speaking and you're casting a spell, don't use cursive words, because regardless of your intent, you can be hexing someone and putting out that curse. And do yourself positive affirmations and positive freedom of creation, and use your intent and creation and creativity wisely. And on that note, do the same with AI and don't abuse AI, engage it, and that will be another episode we'll have to do. And entering in our alternative history research points into AI. And I loved what Julia showed of Sam Osmanovich's Bosnian pyramid book that he did with AI. And I think we should do something similar as a project here as well. And on that note, thank you all for being here for number 5. I'm sure number 6 will be next week, and if not, the week after that. And love you all. Ta-ta. Buy Hans's books. It's in the description.
Thank you, Bernie. Have a good night.
Much love. Bye. I wish you a happy birthday. It's your birthday on Monday. What are you doing? Happy birthday. And I do love you all.
Thank you once again for attending WooWoo Wednesdays.